You know, I got a lot of pushback the other day when I made that video and the headline said that FEMA is broke. Oh, a bunch of people say FEMA's not broke. They just got all this new funding and all this and that, blah, 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 blah. Well, check this out, guys. 8 days into the fiscal year for the federal government, FEMA has already spent half of the disaster relief funds that Congress has allocated to them for the next 12 months, okay? So half of the money's gone in 1 week. Milton literally just ripped through Florida. We don't even know how much damage that caused, in addition to Helene the week before. It's pretty safe to say that they're probably going to be completely out of money by the end of the month if things keep going like this. In fact, the only way that they won't be completely broke and out of money is if Congress gives them more money, which at this point seems to be highly unlikely. But right now, FEMA is already talking about how they're going to have to restrict spending unless they get approval for additional funding. Under these new spending restrictions that FEMA is going to be putting into place, they're going to be cutting off funding for disaster-related rebuilding projects nationwide and reserve the rest of the money for life-saving operations after Hurricane Milton. So this can include all sorts of things like stopping repairs on roads, sewer plants, and water treatment facilities that were damaged. Before Hurricane Helene or Milton ever even happened, FEMA was already talking about having to restrict further payouts and further funding throughout the rest of the year, starting in December or January, due to funding concerns, guys. So this is a huge problem. As of Tuesday this week, FEMA has spent $9 billion of the $20 billion that Congress has put in FEMA's disaster fund on October 1st, and the fiscal year runs until September 30th of 2025. And apparently this is the first time that FEMA has ever even stated how much money they have publicly. And there's a lot of things going around right now about money being stolen, about FEMA not telling the truth. Doesn't really surprise me given how untrustworthy the government agencies can be. Earlier this week, there was a group of Congress people that tried to call an emergency meeting so that way they can pass some more disaster relief spending, because it's not just FEMA who's running out of money. Also the SBA, the Small Business Administration, they are running out of money as well. And reason why that matters is because, number one, they provide loans to small businesses whenever things like this happen, but also they provide low interest loans to homeowners whose properties were impacted by these storms. And people have said, well, aren't you against government help for all these type of things, Michael? Well, yes, I am. But if they're going to help anybody, it needs to be American citizens, not illegals pouring over the border, not foreign countries, right here at home. That's my stance on it. That's where I've always stood on these things. That's where I'm always going to stand on it. But here's the problem, guys. Congress has no plans to reconvene the House of Representatives before the election to address the disaster funding. So it's almost a guarantee that FEMA is going to run out of money, and fast. The SBA, they're already talking about how their money is going to run out before the end of October as well. So it looks like both organizations are going to be broke by Halloween. And the crazy thing is, this is like a snowball effect, because if people cannot apply for SBA loans, then that will force those same people to sign up for FEMA emergency aid, and they could have gotten some money from the SBA instead. So because all these organizations are underfunded and going broke, it's going to put additional strain even faster on the systems that remain. So the SBA, they normally provide homeowners loans of up to $500,000 at a 2.8% interest rate to repair or replace homes and property damaged by a disaster. And keep in mind, guys, this is a loan. This is not giving away money, because we are giving away money to illegal immigrants in this country. We're giving away money to foreign countries, and nobody has to pay it back. But something happens here in the US, we'll give you a $500,000 loan to help you rebuild. But then, of course, if you can't repay that loan, then your property is collateral. But of course, this isn't the first time that FEMA has run out of money. In 10 occasions in the past, they have actually had to put restrictions on spending because of similar circumstances, just running out of money and not having the cash available from Congress. And get this, if FEMA actually starts restricting spending in December or sooner, this will be the earliest time of year that FEMA has ever had to take that action, and all of the rebuilding projects that are happening right now will basically be frozen until they get more money. So you can see a whole lot of places in shambles indefinitely because the federal government is failing to act on this. You know, this is where I feel like they should step in, guys, because once again, all this money that they're sending to other places could be diverted to being spent here. You know, we're talking $20 billion for FEMA. How many billions have we already given to Ukraine alone? According to Google, which I cannot say for sure this is the accurate number, but it sounds like it probably is. And it says here, to date, we have provided more than $61.3 billion in military assistance since Russia launched its premeditated, unprovoked attack on Ukraine. 64 billion. That is 3 years worth of FEMA funding. All that money could be used right here in the US right now. But we just gave it away, and there's no loan. There's no contingency to pay it back. I mean, does anybody else think that that's wrong? And to make matters even worse, FEMA is now saying that the amount of money that they have left would be insufficient to cover all of our ongoing life-saving operations that are happening because of all these storms. So people might not even get rescued because of this, guys. Never mind rebuilding or anything like that. We're talking about just saving people's lives. Might not happen because Congress doesn't want to reconvene before the election. That's where things stand right now in this country. It truly is a sad, sad state of affairs right now. Now, of course, there's not really much any of us can do about this as an average citizen, but at least there is something you can do about controlling how much your property taxes are rising. I have shown you guys in numerous videos in the past how property taxes are being collected and assessed fraudulently all across the country, and I've been wanting to find a way to help everybody protest their property tax bill that might feel a little bit lost and doesn't really know what to do. And that's why today's video is sponsored by Ownwell. Ownwell helps homeowners save money on property taxes, and how they do that is they protest the property tax bill on your behalf. And the best part is, it's a service that's 100% free to sign up with. You only pay if you end up winning, guys. So that's the best thing about it. Like, if you value your time or you feel intimidated by the process of protesting your property tax bill, the best thing to do is really to hire Ownwell to do it for you. Their tax experts have county level relationships that help them achieve about an 80% win rate on their property tax appeals. Of course, there's no guarantees. They can't guarantee you a certain dollar amount that you'll win by or how much money you'll actually save. But the best part is you only pay a percentage of the money that you save. In fact, you can pay as little as 25% of your savings, and they save the average homeowner about $1,148 a year on their property taxes. So first of all, that's a significant savings for a lot of reasons, because that means you're going to have a lower tax bill and a lower property tax basis going into next year. Ownwell will also protest next year's bill for you if you sign up for their service. In fact, I even hired them to do mine as well, guys. I don't have the results yet, but I hired them to do my property tax protest too. So if you live in a high property tax state like Florida, California, New York, or Texas particularly, this service is something you're going to want to take advantage of. Use my link down in the description below to head over to ownwell.com and get an estimated tax savings before you even sign up. Now, to make matters even worse on the US economic home front is we just got the most recent inflation reading, and of course it's not good. It's going in the wrong direction once again after we've had a big Fed interest rate cut just a few weeks ago. The CPI rose to 2.4% and it was expected to be at 2.3%. That was the expectation among economists. And then the core inflation, which is even more important because this is the key component that the Fed likes to look at, guys. The core inflation, which excludes volatile food and energy, basically everything we need, climbed to 3.3% over the past year, which is an uptick from the August reading at 3.2%. If we take a look at this graph here, we can see the last year's worth of inflation readings for the core inflation numbers, and what do you notice? It is starting to go back up. When we look at a 10-year outlook, we can see that inflation was relatively stable from like 2015 all the way through about 2020, and then of course it started going through the roof by the end of 2021. And then we see, oh, it starts coming down. This is great news, right? But what do you notice? That line is starting to go in the opposite direction and once again. The truth of the matter is, guys, we haven't had core inflation this high in about 30 years. The last time core inflation was at 3.3% where it is today, besides this whole run-up during the pandemic, was back in August of 1993. So not only are these numbers not good, but even if they were good, would anybody actually really care? Because these numbers that are printed on a screen mean nothing to somebody who saw their property taxes increase by 30%, or saw their insurance go up by 50%, or has seen the rent go up by 40%. Nobody cares. You know, because the only thing that really matters is how much are you paying for your life now compared to what it was 3 or 4 years ago. Nobody cares what the government CPI or core inflation numbers are because they're all bogus. And the funniest thing about all of this is they say, well, this latest inflation report is going to make it even more difficult for the Federal Reserve and economists to feel completely confident that high inflation has been stamped out. But they even said they don't even care anymore. They're more concerned about the labor market right now more than anything. And they should be, because we're going to get to that a little bit later, because the unemployment claims are starting to skyrocket. But they say, don't worry, this is normal. We're going to see some bumps in the road when it comes to inflation coming back down. It's not going to be a straight line down, so don't panic. So the thing is, the Fed is going to see more inflation reports before their next meeting in November, but a lot of people are projecting that there's going to be another quarter-point rate cut at their next meeting despite all of this. Meanwhile, while inflation is actually still going up, the Social Security Administration, they just announced also that Social Security benefits would rise 2.5% in 2025, which is the smallest cost of living adjustment in 4 years. And this is all calculated using the CPI. So it doesn't really matter what the real numbers are, because all you're getting is an extra 2.5% in your increased cost of living. You also have jobless claims that just surged to the highest level since August of 2023. Brand new data just showed 258,000 initial jobless claims ending the week of October 5th. The prior week, it was 230,000. The amount of people filing for unemployment went up 42,000 in just 1 week. And they say that it mostly went up in states that were impacted by Hurricane Helene. But keep in mind, as I'm shooting this today, it is October 10th, okay? And the unemployment numbers and the jobless claims numbers only go through October 5th. So this is likely to get worse because a lot more people were just impacted by Hurricane Milton as well. And here's the crazy thing. The Fed is most likely to look at all of this as temporary, and still they are expected to lower interest rates by 25 basis points at their next meeting in November, guys. So despite all of this bad economic news, they're probably still going to lower interest rates. At least that's the consensus right now. That could be different when November actually comes. But it is just kind of crazy how disconnected with reality these people at the Fed are. And it just goes to show you that they really don't care about lowering inflation or how affected everybody is. All they really care about is manipulating our monetary system and keeping inflation running higher than it should. And this all just comes after all the great news that we had about the jobs. You know, just a few days ago, we had a jobs report that showed the labor market added 254,000 new jobs in September, which was higher than the 150,000 that was expected. And also unemployment went from 4.2 to 4.1%. But it looks like all of that's going to be reversed in about a week. And here's the other thing. Mortgage rates still continue to jump. I have been talking about this ever since the Fed cut rates for the first time, and they are still going up, guys. It is actually kind of shocking for a lot of people to see this right now because no one expected it. Right now, according to Mortgage News Daily, the 30-year mortgage rate is sitting at 6.62%. Right before the Fed rate cut, it was at 6%. So it has gone up over 60 basis points since the Fed cut rates just a few weeks ago. And they say that mortgage rates continue to jump higher because of the market's slowing expectation for another interest rate cut by the Fed in November. In fact, just in one day, on October 4th, the 30-year mortgage rates went up by 25 basis points in just one day, guys. And it just now saw the largest 1 week jump in the past 6 months. Clearly, this is not helping homebuyer activity at all. The housing market is still in the toilet. But even in this story, they admit that interest rates aren't even the main problem. They say right here that home prices remain the bigger obstacle to home ownership as the median price of existing home pushes higher. I've been telling people on this channel for years now that forget about what the interest rates are, focus on the price when you're buying a home. And it looks like more and more people are actually doing that, which makes me happy. Here's what they said at Freddie Mac, which is actually an extremely helpful insight on where things are going in this economy, guys. Following the release of a stronger than expected September jobs report, the 30-year fixed rate mortgage saw the largest one-week increase since April. Well, what we know about a lot of the inflation data and the jobs data is it's not very accurate, and a lot of it is bogus just to make things look very good right now. But the reason why this is a helpful insight into the economy is because of this. Basically, the more of these feel-good news stories we get about things right now, then you can pretty much bet that mortgage rates are going to continue to climb. Because the reason that these rates are climbing is because the bond market doesn't believe inflation has been squashed, and just by this most recent report, they're absolutely right. But beyond that, the better the economy is, at least on paper, according to all the officials, then the more these interest rates are probably going to tick up for mortgages. So the only way we get to lower mortgage rates from here, especially at substantially lower mortgage rates, is when they start admitting that the economy is actually bad and things are not going so well. So if you want to know when we're going to see lower mortgage rates, just start looking out for the economic headlines that say, oh, we're officially in a recession, or things are not actually as good as we thought. Those are going to be the headlines to look out for, and then you're going to start seeing the 30-year mortgage rates come down in a meaningful way, which of course I will keep you posted on all of it. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.